Last Friday, along with 1,300 other volunteers, I participated in the world record-breaking river cleanup organised by Kate Strong from Pontypridd. This fantastic community event highlights the strength of feeling on this important issue. Across Wales, every week, a dedicated army of 16,000 volunteers, together with a small band of local authority workers, prevents us from drowning in a sea of discarded fast food packaging, bottles, cans, food containers, cigarette butts, and even used nappies. 250 tonnes of this mess is cleared up by volunteers every year. And littering in Wales is on the rise. In many areas, it is reaching epidemic levels. Earlier this year, Keep Wales Tidy reported a 285% increase in the number of streets heavily affected by litter and refuse. And we should be grateful to every one of our volunteers, but the reality is that they are massively outnumbered by those who just don't care. Littering isn't just laziness, it's a lack of respect for other people. It's a disregard for community, and it shows total disdain for the environment, wildlife, and for the planet. 83% of litter is pedestrian dropped or increasingly thrown from car windows. Litter not only reduces people's quality of life, it works against collective community pride, and it creates the conditions for other forms of antisocial behaviour, such as fly tipping, graffiti, and vandalism to proliferate. So we should all be concerned about littering, and not just in Wales's abundant beauty spots, but wherever people live, work or play, they deserve to do so in an area unblighted by litter and by its big and uglier counterpart, fly tipping, which is also on the rise in Wales. In 2023 to 24, there were more than 42,000 reported fly tipping incidents in Wales, up 6% from the previous year, and a 20% increase on pre-pandemic levels. The 102 prosecutions that followed amounted to less than 0.25% of incidents. However, a deep dive into the data reveals that even this tiny number of prosecutions presents a rose-tinted picture. Just 2 local authorities accounted for 68% of all prosecutions. 12 local authorities reported no prosecutions at all, and as the number of prosecutions refers to offences, not individuals, on average, local authorities prosecuted just 4 individuals. Existing legislation allows for vehicle seizure and unlimited fines. The value of fines imposed is not collated centrally, but we know that less than 70% of prosecutions attracted a fine, and the average is just £516. In the local authority where the most prosecutions have taken place, the largest fine imposed was just £2,000. Vehicle confiscation is likely to be an effective deterrent. However, the number of vehicle seizures is not collated centrally, but it appears that this very rarely happens. This legislative proposal advocates improving, strengthening, and making better use of existing law, including seizing vehicles in almost all circumstances and imposing a meaningful penalty at first offence. Fixed penalty notices can also be an effective deterrent. And I agree with those local authorities who believe that this cap, which currently stands at £400 for fly tipping, needs to be reviewed upwards. More pressing, however, is the need for a greater number of fixed penalty notices to be issued. Last year, just 1,086 were issued against fly tippers, a fall of 8% on the previous year. And that's an average of around 50 fixed penalty notices per local authority, or just 1 a week. Equally, more use needs to be made of fixed penalty notices to combat littering. In 2022 to 23, local authorities issued just 533 notices, an average of 2 per month per local authority. 9 local authorities issued none at all, and perhaps that isn't surprising when each notice, on average, raised just £57. As Keep Wales Tidy notes, whilst fixed penalty notices are popular with residents, they are resource heavy. And this is an unavoidable fact of life for local authorities who understandably focus limited resources on clearance rather than enforcement. One local authority, for example, reported 400 fly tipping events every month. And although CCTV footage of many of these offences was available, there was simply insufficient resource to examine the evidence and pursue prosecutions. Nevertheless, clearance still costs local authorities millions of pounds each year. So, yes.
Sorry, I was going to actually say, the amount of money that's spent on collecting litter, hundreds and thousands of pounds, which could be spent on education, on buses, you know, all these things that really matter to people. Do you think that's a better way of spending our public money?
Yeah, it is a resource that should be unnecessary and is wasted. It could be spent on so many better things in making our communities better, more beautiful, more accessible, as well as all these standard services that public services, the local authorities provide. And whether it's littering or fly tipping, prevention is the key and is a far more effective, cost-effective option than increasing enforcement or clearing up the mess. Educational work is incredibly important, but we also need to invest in simple deterrents, such as even just signage to make clear that littering and fly tipping are offences and that there will be prosecutions. Despite the fight back by volunteers and local authorities, they do need more support from Welsh Government. For example, data is not collected in a standardised way, and whilst innovative strategies are being implemented in some areas, there appears to be no process to identify and share best practice. So Welsh Government could take a lead on these issues, and it should also take control of the £90 million that comes to Wales as part of the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme and use it in a targeted and strategic way. Llywydd, in Wales it is currently possible to litter with impunity and to see fly tipping is a low-risk business option. So winning the battle against this antisocial behaviour will require a joined-up, government-led approach. Our aim must be for it to become culturally unacceptable to drop litter and commercially unaffordable to fly tip in Wales. To achieve this, enforcement needs to be stepped up. The penalties imposed need to provide a credible deterrent and reflect not just the cost of clearance, but the detrimental impact felt by the community and the environment. This means educating magistrates on the true extent of the harm done. We need to be more imaginative in the toolbox of penalties. For example, those who throw rubbish from their vehicles should attend, in my view, a mandatory environmental awareness course, similar to the speed awareness courses, or face penalty points which could lead to disqualification. Commercial fly pit tippers should fear not just significant fines, but the likely prospect of vehicle confiscation and possibly a ban. Signage needs to be commonplace, educating people about the offences. Technology should be widely employed. Llywydd, I hope this Senedd will be able to engage with a cross-party group on littering, fly tipping and waste reduction as we develop proposals to make better use of current legislation and bring forward ideas for the inclusion in party manifestos across all political parties. This issue has gone on the radar for under the radar for too long. We ignore it at our peril, and our communities demand that action is taken. And I hope that with this legislative proposal, that this will be a step forward now towards legislation which will achieve this objective. Diolch yn fawr.